The call connected. He didn't know that. For 4 minutes and 37 seconds, he heard his brother and his most trusted colleague plan exactly how to take everything his father left him. My name is Owen Calloway. I'm 44 years old, and until 8 weeks ago, I believed, genuinely, without reservation, that my brother Nate was the one person on earth who would never work against me. I believe that the way you believe in the foundation of a house you've lived in for 20 years. Not consciously, just structurally, the way you believe in floors. I also believe that my colleague Dana Rice, who had worked alongside me for 9 years, who I had personally advocated for twice when the board pushed back on her, was as loyal to me as any professional relationship I had ever had. I was wrong on both counts. I know this because on a Tuesday in October, I accidentally pocket-dialed Nate while pulling my phone out to call my wife, and the call connected before I realized what number I'd hit, and I dropped my phone back into my jacket without looking, and I heard, through the thin fabric of my breast pocket, my brother's voice say Dana's name, and then Dana's voice answer, and then both of them, together, for 4 minutes and 37 seconds, discuss what they were planning to do to me. I stood in the parking garage of our office building. I stood completely still. I didn't breathe. I just listened until the call dropped. And then I sat down on the concrete floor with my back against a support column, and I stared at my phone for a very long time. I should tell you about my father first. His name was Gerald Calloway, and he built Calloway Distribution from a single warehouse in 1987 into a regional logistics company with 41 employees and a very clean reputation. He was not a sentimental man, but he was a precise one. When he died 3 years ago, he left the company jointly to Nate and me. 60% to me as the elder, because I had been working there for 18 years, and 40% to Nate, who had joined 6 years prior. He also left a letter, not a will document, but a personal letter addressed to both of us, that said only, "You will be better together than either of you alone." We both cried when we read that. I believed it. I still believe it, actually, which is part of what makes this so hard. Nate is 39. He is smart, meticulous, and deeply risk-averse in a way that has always complemented my willingness to move faster than is comfortable. We have disagreed on decisions before. We have argued, sometimes badly, but I never, not once, suspected that his disagreements had moved from the conference room to private strategy sessions with a colleague behind my back. Dana had been with the company for 9 years. She came in as operations manager, and through a combination of skill and timing, had become, effectively, the third most powerful person in the building. I trusted her judgment on personnel decisions. I shared my thinking with her before board meetings. When my father was dying and I was splitting my time between the hospital and the office, she ran things quietly and well. I thought I owed her a debt. What I did not know was that for the past 8 months, she and Nate had been meeting every other Thursday for lunch at a restaurant 12 blocks from the office. Not secretly exactly, just privately. Nobody announced it. Nobody lied about it. They just never mentioned it. And the reason they never mentioned it was because of what they were discussing over those lunches. Me. What I heard on that call was not a screaming argument. It was not a villain's monologue. It was two careful, intelligent people having a calm and organized conversation about a problem they had both identified and had apparently been working on for some time. The problem was me, specifically my judgment, specifically a decision I had made 14 months ago to expand our cold storage operations into a new market, which had not yet returned profit and was currently running at a loss. I had disclosed to Dana, in a conversation I believed to be private, that I had been experiencing some significant anxiety about the expansion and had spoken to a therapist about it. I told her this because I trusted her, because we had that kind of professional relationship, or so I believed. On the call, I heard her tell Nate that she had documentation, emails, meeting notes, a summary she had written herself, that in her assessment showed a pattern of poor risk judgment over the past 3 years. I heard Nate say, "It's not about pushing him out." I heard Dana say, "I know." I heard Nate say, "It's about protecting what Dad built." I heard Dana say, "And you're 40%. There was a pause. I heard Nate say, "That's not fair." I heard Dana say, "I know. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have said that." There was another pause. And then Nate said something I will be thinking about for a long time. He said, "I love my brother." And Dana said, "I know you do." And Nate said, "I just don't trust him with his company anymore." I want you to understand that what I heard was not hatred. It was not jealousy. It was the sound of my brother having convinced himself, over 8 months of careful private lunches, that removing me from leadership of my own father's company was an act of love. That is a much harder thing to respond to than hatred, because you can't argue with it the same way. Because part of you, the part that has also watched the cold storage numbers and also knows what anxiety looks like, and also remembers your father's letter, understands, just slightly, what he might mean. And that understanding is its own kind of devastation. I did not confront them the next day, or the day after. I went back to work. I sat in my office. I ran the Monday morning operations meeting with Dana present, watching her face, watching her give me exactly the professional warmth she had always given me, watching her make eye contact and nod at my points and suggest a revision to the Q4 freight schedule that was genuinely useful. I thanked her for it. I went home that evening and I sat at my kitchen table for 2 hours. My wife, Elena, noticed. Elena has been with me for 16 years, and she is the kind of woman who does not ask you what's wrong when you clearly don't want to talk about it. She made dinner. She put it in front of me. She sat down and ate her own food. And when I finally looked up and said, "I need to tell you something," she put her fork down and gave me her full attention without making me feel like an emergency. I told her everything. She listened to all of it. The parking garage, the call, the 4 minutes and 37 seconds, Nate's voice, Dana's documents, the anxiety disclosure, the cold storage numbers, all of it, without interrupting. When I finished, she sat quietly for a moment. Then she said, "What do you want to do?" Not, "What should you do?" Not, "Here is what I think you should do." Just, "What do you want to do?" I said I didn't know yet. She said, "Okay," and then she picked her fork back up and kept eating. I tell you this because it matters, because the week that followed was one of the most difficult of my professional life. And the only reason I did not do something I would regret, something reactive, something that would have confirmed every concern Nate had documented, was because Elena asked me what I wanted instead of telling me what to do. I went back to the parking garage recording. My phone had recorded the call audio automatically because I use a call backup app. I had 4 minutes and 37 seconds of my brother and my colleague, clear as a board meeting, making a case against me. I listened to it 17 times, not out of masochism, out of precision. I needed to know exactly what they had, and more importantly, I needed to know exactly what I had. I want to be honest with you about something. What I am about to tell you is not the heroic version of this story. There is a version of this story where I walked into Nate's office the next morning, laid my phone on his desk, played 30 seconds of the recording and said, "I know." And maybe that is what I should have done. But I didn't do that. What I did instead, and I have spent a lot of time deciding whether I regret this, was to spend the next 2 weeks preparing. I met with our company attorney privately, not to build a legal case against Nate, but to understand exactly where I stood with my 60% ownership and what the board process would look like if someone, anyone, moved to challenge my leadership position. What I learned was that under the current operating agreement, any leadership transition required the support of the board, which included 4 outside directors. I personally had strong relationships with 2 of them. Nate had stronger relationships with the other 2. Dana had access to all four through her operational role. This was not good. What I also learned during those 2 weeks was something I had not known before. Dana had a meeting scheduled with two of the board members in 6 weeks. The meeting was listed as an operational review. I knew from 4 minutes and 37 seconds of audio that it was not. I had two options. Option 1, walk into Nate's office before that meeting, play the recording, and force the conversation. Option 2, do what Nate and Dana had been doing for 8 months. Prepare. I called the two board members with whom I had strong relationships. I did not mention the recording. I did not mention Dana's meeting. I told them I wanted to walk them through my vision for the next 3 years of the company, including an honest assessment of the cold storage expansion, where it had underperformed, what I had learned from it, and what I was doing differently now. Both of them agreed to meet with me, and I went into those meetings not with a defense, not with a counter-accusation, but with a plan, a real one, built on numbers, built on what I actually knew about the business my father built. I did not play the recording. I chose not to, and I am still deciding if that was wisdom or cowardice, and I think the honest answer is probably both. But when Dana's meeting with the board members happened, I already had my two, and they already had my numbers. And they already knew I had been thinking about the next 3 years. The meeting did not go the way Nate and Dana had planned. I know this because one of my board members called me afterward. He said, "You should know there was a conversation about your future with the company." He said, "It did not go anywhere." He said, "You should sit down with your brother." I called Nate that evening. I told him I needed to talk to him. Not at the office, not at a restaurant 12 blocks away, at our mother's house. He agreed, without asking why, which told me he already knew some version of this conversation was coming. We sat in our mother's kitchen, the same kitchen we grew up in, the same table where our father once told us both that a man who can't keep a promise has nothing, and I put my phone on the table between us. I didn't play the recording, I just said, "I know about the meetings." I said, "I know about Dana's compiled documents." I said, "I know about the board meeting." He didn't deny it. He didn't pretend. He looked at the phone on the table for a moment, and then he looked at me, and he said, "I was trying to protect the company." I said, "I know." He said, "It wasn't personal." I said, "Nate," and he stopped, because he knew. We both knew. When you plan the removal of your brother from your father's company in a restaurant 12 blocks from the office over 8 months of Thursday lunches, it is personal. There is no version of that sentence that is true. He said, "I'm sorry," and I believe him. I believe he is sorry. I believe all of it, the love and the sorry and the 8 months of lunches and the documents and the apology can all be true at the same time. That's what makes it complicated. That's what makes it something I will probably be working through for years. As for Dana, I gave her the option to resign quietly. She took it. I didn't explain my reasoning to anyone on the board. I said there had been a shift in the operational structure and that we were moving to a new model. That was true in every sense of the word. Nate and I haven't fully rebuilt what was broken. I don't know if we will, but we are still talking. We still sit at that table in our mother's kitchen. And sometimes when we're both looking at the numbers and Nate says something precise and I say something fast, and we're both right and both wrong, and the company moves forward anyway, I think about my father's letter. "You will be better together than either of you alone." I'm still deciding if he was right, but I haven't stopped trying to find out. If you've ever had to make a decision between what's right and what's effective, between confronting someone and preparing instead, I'd really like to know where you land on that. Leave a comment. Tell me what you would have done with 4 minutes and 37 seconds of audio in a board meeting 6 weeks away. There's no clean answer, but I think there's something worth talking about. If this story stayed with you, the next one is already waiting. Take care.